Agent Burke was dispatched to a house to confiscate a firearm that had been illegally acquired by the residents. However, instead of being granted access to the home, the door was instead shut in his face and the residents called the police. The cops were given Agent Burke's badge number, but still treated the incident as a break-in and Burke as a criminal.
Hey, turn around, let me see your hands. Turn around, let me see your hands. Okay, let me see your hands. I need to see some ID. Get on the ground! Get on the ground now! Get on the ground! Get on the ground now!
I'm a federal agent.
917-110-3.
I'm a federal agent.
Get on the ground!
Agent Burke refuses immediate orders to get on the ground, likely so police can check if he's armed or not, and continues the investigation safely. Burke believes that because he's a federal agent, he's not subject to the orders of municipal police. But if that was the case, any criminal could falsely claim they were a federal agent to bypass police orders. While he may not think he looks like a threat himself, it remains that he should have politely followed the orders so the cops could figure out the situation easily. But instead, things continued to escalate.
What the heck's the matter with you? Who do you think you are? Get on the ground!
I'm not getting out of
Chopper, thanks.
I'm not getting out.
91-7, pulling up.
I got my ID.
Do not reach for your waist! Keep your hands up!
Once a second officer arrives, Burke finally follows the orders and lays down on the ground.
Do not resist!
I'm not resisting.
You're acting like a moron!
Wait a second. Wait a second. Wait a second. No, don't do this. Wait a second. I got a medical condition. Get my license out of my pocket.
We're getting you secured first!
Please, please, wait. No, no. Hold on, hold on. I'm hyperventilating.
Please! Wait, please, sir. I'm
resisting.
I'm not.
Stop resisting.
Would you
now.
please get my ID out of my left pocket?
Stop
I'm begging you. My wife's please. It's right here.
resisting.
Please get it. Wait, sir, help me up. Just hold me up. Sir, I can't do it. Wait, sir.
Stop resisting now.
Please help me. Sir, please get my
Taser,
my federal creds.
Get your taser out, Joe.
No, don't do that, please. Sir.
Don't make me tase you. You're gonna get tased. Put your right
No.
arm behind your back.
Okay.
Put your right arm behind
Help
your
me
back.
up.
No,
Help me up.
No, you're gonna stay on the ground. Put your right arm behind your back.
Let me breathe. Let me breathe.
You can
I'm
breathe
gonna.
just fine.
I'm gonna. Ow, don't do that. Okay, here. My God, it is cuffed. Please stop. Please stop, sir. Wait a second. Sir, please help me up.
In the distressing footage, Burke continues to tell the officers that he's an ATF agent out on a call and to simply take his ID from his back pocket. After finally looking at his ID, officers keep him under arrest and take him to their patrol vehicle.
Why would you make us do this?
I didn't want you to. I wanted to. Wait.
Oh, just hold him. I'm knocking the door.
Relax.
Hold him.
Hey, guys, please. Just talk to me for 1 second, please.
Get in the car.
No,
We'll
wait.
talk later.
Sir,
The cops then force Burke into the vehicle, talking over his pleas and explanations regarding his medical condition.
please, sir.
If you are a real police officer, you ought to be ashamed of
I
yourself.
was trying to give you my creds.
We got him in the car.
Arm behind your back.
Now, I know I got some subscribers that like the Young Turks, and I can see why they might love the Young Turks. They do actually do some good work, but they also do some atrocious work, especially in the world of race baiting, which is one of my biggest pet peeves with them, one of the biggest problems with them. And it is my belief that their content pushing this rhetoric has actually, at this point, led to the loss of life for a few people at least. So if you like the Young Turks, I get it, but please hear me out on this one. Number one, if this man had brown skin, I can almost guarantee you that this video would be posted on the Young Turks channel as a video showing racist cops. We would hear rhetoric about, look at how they judge people based on their skin. Here's a black man who happens to be one of them. This guy's a federal agent. And even as a federal agent, they're treating him just like any old, in their words, thug. Just another worthless black thug that they can just throw around, and they have no care for his life. They don't believe that Black Lives Matter. They don't believe that this guy's life matters, right? And then they will talk about how this was unnecessary. They got a call, not about a break-in or somebody with a gun or anything that would warrant this. And look at how quickly they see this black man and they right away pull out a gun. If it was a white guy, they would be giving him a sandwich, right? That's what they would say, right? Because he's a black guy, and when we know the whole trope, white men, white people afraid of black people, they feel that black people are threatening, right? So there's a guy who's black and he's I mean, he's not a thin guy, but he certainly is not some Hulk, right? But I'm sure to this racist white cop, you know, as we've seen in the past, they see black people as a threat. So he comes out to the scene, and keep in mind, they had the badge number, right? They had the badge number for this guy. They could have checked into it and see whatever. But as soon as they come, all they see is a black man, right? Who has no value and isn't worth being treated with dignity, right? That's what they would do if this guy had brown skin, right? And people hearing that rhetoric, some of them, they would change it would change their thought process and how they perceive police officers and how they behave around police officers. And surely a percentage of people will find themselves 6 feet under because of ideas that they got from watching, content like that, where it's like, oh, racist white cop treating this black guy. But what explained this? This was not a black guy. Why was he treated in such a way? Now, if someone who's a Young Turks fan or somebody on the Young Turks themselves heard this video, they would immediately give a bad faith response. Bad faith response would be, rather than acknowledging the points that I'm making or challenging them or directly speaking to them, they would try to deflect, right? And move the goalpost and try to make a point that, look, I don't know if they actually used a gun or not. I could have to rewind a video and see, but if they didn't use a gun, because I did see them have some tasers. I don't know if they had guns as well. But they would say, look, the fact that they used tasers instead of a gun, and the fact that this guy, is alive, right? If this guy was black, he would be dead. They would have shot him right away. They wouldn't spend so much time, going back and forth. The minute they say get down, he doesn't get down, next thing bam, 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 the guy's dead. Right? That would be the bad faith response. Totally ignoring all my points, right? Creating another hypothetical to compete with my hypothetical, right? I'm the one who says, if this guy was black, they would make it all about race, right? So they would counter with another hypothetical saying that, well, in that reality, you'd also be dead, right? Which ignores the points that I made. That kind of dishonest, manipulative rhetoric, which makes a lot of money, right? You have a lot of people who watch liberal media, left-leaning media that are primed to get emotional about race-related topics. We have serious issues with race in this country. They're not quite what they are presented in a lot of these partisan media channels, but we do have serious issues. We have people who have had actual experiences with things regarding racism. And then you keep bombarding them with everything it's racist, everything cops are racist, everybody's racist, right? So then you do a video like this, if it was a black guy, and you say, oh, racist cop. And almost none of your audience is going to challenge it. They're going to be like, yeah, that's how they are, those racist cops. And they'll walk away without challenging anything you said. They're not going to look into anything. They're going to simply accept that, hey, here's another racist cop. And the more you keep pounding that into their heads, now when they're interacting with cops, there's never an idea of looking at a police officer as an individual. Now, to be clear, I believe there's systematic issues with the police department. I just don't think that race is necessarily one of the biggest ones, or certainly not the only one, right? I think there are problems that are bigger than race, as we see in this video, right? This is exactly the kind of conduct that many people like MSNBC and TYT would call out when it's somebody with brown skin, right? And in my view, far too many officers engage in this kind of conduct all the time, regardless if the person is white, black, orange, Asian, or even another police officer. In fact, I've seen situations where they know it's a police officer and there's some kind of rivalry and they get treated perhaps worse because they have some kind of animosity, right? I think Long Island Police and NYPD is an example of that. I don't know if they still got the beef going, but I know for a while they were beefing with each other. And potentially your Long Island police officer pulled over in New York City might have a tough time, right? So what's the big issue? Two things. TYT once again is contributing rather than just reporting on the news, they're contributing to the news, right? There's some people who are probably dead now that are dead because of TYT, right? You listen to this rhetoric, for years and years, you start to see the world in a different way. So when you interact with police officers, you have this rhetoric in your brain, and maybe you get a little bit too paranoid unnecessarily. You see things that aren't there, and you react in a certain way, you know, justified or unjustified, which leads the officer to, take deadly force. Something you do. Maybe you think, oh, this racist cop is gonna do whatever, so I'm gonna run away, take my chances because I think all cops are racist or something like that, and you know, I'm gonna take my chance on my own. And then when you run, and then the cop thinks you're running because you whatever, maybe as you're running, you touch your thigh and he thinks you're grabbing a gun, whatever it is. Situation where you end up dead, and the reason why you end up dead is because of, I wouldn't just put it just on TYT, but because of watching content like that. Content like that changes the way you see the world, which modifies your behavior and potentially modifies it in a way that puts your life at risk when involved with a police officer. If you didn't watch content like TYT, then perhaps you would judge the cop as an individual, and maybe they didn't do anything that would draw any red flags, and then you're cool, cop ends up being cool, and nothing happens. But because you keep watching TYT and you have this presumption of cops are all racist, right? So you start to see things that are not there, right? Leading you to take certain action that ends up putting you in a bad situation, and you end up 6 feet under, or better case scenario, just hurt, right? This race baiting market that a lot of these partisan media folks, especially TYT and MSNBC, it's making them a lot of money, getting them a lot of attention and views, but at the cost of, in my view, the lives. There's got to be at least some percentage of people who are dead today that are dead because of people like TYT and MSNBC. I know some people look at that as hyperbolic, that's pretty strong, but you got to think about it. Millions of people watching these videos. It's changing the way they see the world. If they change their worldview, one could expect logically that it would change their actions that they take in certain situations. And it's very possible their actions change in a way that puts them in a situation where they end up in serious trouble. When you're reporting on the media, it's a serious responsibility. You have the ability to affect the way people see the world, and there can be very, very serious consequences to your content. I think American media need to consider these things, but unfortunately, in my view, they only focus on the profit, whether it's progressive media, leftist media, whatever it is, right-wing media, mainstream liberal, mainstream conservative. It's all about the money, it's all about the views, all about the clicks. Consequences to the country and to their viewers be damned. Race baiting needs to go away, it needs to stop. It's disgusting, it's dangerous, it's irresponsible, and it's wrong. You can, like me, acknowledge that there are systematic issues with our police, that some police are in fact racist, but you can also at least consider, or perhaps agree with me, that the bigger issue is power. That's what you saw in this video. That's what I've seen in many, many videos, right? I never jumped to the conclusion of racism without direct evidence of racism. right? Throwing a guy down on the ground and being rough with him is not evidence of racism, right? Outside of any context that specifically points towards racism. You don't have to be racist to be a jerk. You don't have to be racist to be a bully. You don't have to be racist to be an asshole. Some people are just racist, bully, assholes. One of the three, all three, two of the three, whatever combination. Sometimes that's all it is. But when you make it all about race, you're protecting bad cops who are bad for reasons that have nothing to do with race. Because you're not allowing that discussion to occur. The focus is always about race, 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 race. When you see cops acting like this, oh, race, 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 race. So everyone's focusing on race. They want to talk about police reform from the standpoint of racism. But then if there's other issues, perhaps bigger issues, why cops act the way they do, if no one's talking about it because they're not aware of it, because they're being distracted by this racism rhetoric, then how will it ever be addressed? And if that's the major issue, if it's really a power thing and not a race thing, that means a lot of people are being hurt and killed. And it's not going to ever really change because we're not addressing the primary source of the problem. In some ways, but not quite, like climate change. All the people talking about climate change, see how many of them want to talk about meat production and distribution and its contribution to climate, right? They'll talk real tough until we start talking about meat. Then all of a sudden, they get real quiet. Funny how that works. This is the Baby Channel, the Baby comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well.